Hello, 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 and welcome to yet another Motor One Test Car Happy Hour. Thank you all for joining. I hope you enjoyed and appreciated our lively new intro music, which was just delightful. We had so many good options from super producer Kyle right before the broadcast started. I'm really happy we went with that one. Joining me today, we've got Chris Bruce from our news writing team, who has not been on this particular podcast before, but fans of Motor One will know him very well as one of the co-hosts of Motor One's most famous podcast, Rambling About Cars. Chris, thanks for joining us today on this very special episode. And then, of course, senior editor Jeff Perez in his now signature black hoodie. Hello, Jeff.
I can't change now after this. I have to wear this every time.
You have one podcasting outfit and one podcasting outfit only, and I appreciate that. Yeah, everybody, as usual, no matter where you're joining, whether you're watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, or on Twitter, first of all, thank you. We appreciate it. Second of all, just know that you can put a question or a comment in the chat wherever you are. We will get it here, and we would love to answer your questions. We'd love to take your comments. And in this case, probably hear a little bit about your own personal cars, because for the first time ever, we're varying the format and formula of this podcast just a little bit. We have actually lots of great cars. I've had a week where I've driven 5 new cars, new test cars that I'm anxious to talk about, but we've got a lot of people flying, and we've always wanted to do a conversation about our personal cars too. This is a question that comes up fairly frequently with people who are outside of the industry about do you actually own a car and what do you drive? So we thought it would be a fun topic for the podcast this week. Right off the bat, we've got 2 comments. One from a super famous guy called Kevin Hawthorne, who says, as he does every week, "Good evening from Lakeland, Florida." And then from somebody that, I don't know, have you guys ever heard of John Neff?
Never heard of him.
Maybe
I get emails a lot from him.
Sure does, yeah. No, former former editor-in-chief and still very close friend of the family, the Motor One family, John Neff, longtime listener, first-time caller. Did you buy a car yet, Jeff? So what a pertinent question for today, right?
Yeah.
So
and no, the answer is no, I haven't.
Hold on that right now, Mr. Neff. We are going to dedicate a considerable amount of this podcast to talking about the cars that Jeff is looking at and that he maybe should buy for a car. But no, in the meantime, we just thought it would be fun to talk about the cars that we actually own and that are in our lives that are not press cars, right? So, Bruce, your first time here. Why don't we start with you? You're again, you're somebody who's talking a lot with Jeff and all of us about what cars we dream of having, but you actually have something that's really entertaining in your driveway all the time, right?
Yes. I have a 2006 Mini Cooper non-S R50. I have had it since it was brand new. I took delivery on October 31st, 2005. So that means she's coming up on her 17th birthday.
Wow.
I've owned it literally that entire time. Yeah, I just snapped that picture today in my driveway for producer extraordinaire Kyle. And yeah, it's been great. Like I know he's been on the show, Brandon Turkis. He also has a lot of experience with minis, and he has had a ton of problems with his. I think I got lucky because it's the final model year, and it's probably one of the last ones made that I have had, other than kind of the common problems, like the coolant reservoir is plastic and it splits, but that happens on all of them. So I had that. And like, other than kind of some of the common issues, it has been problem-free. It has been a fantastic car. So yeah, been with me all this time. My wife and I, we were a 1-car family for several years while she was in grad school. And this was the single vehicle that got us around. And now it's kind of our around the town car, but still, I love it. Yeah. Any questions?
It's totally a classic. And it's also, I would say, like I was just getting into driving press cars when the first gen minis were still around. I drove a couple of friends and family before that. And I would say that there are a lot of people out there who firmly believe that the first generation of Mini Cooper that was brought over to the US, right? The first kind of BMW generation is still the best of that breed, right?
And I would agree with that, actually. Yeah, it just has, like they talk about like go-kart like handling. I don't know if I would go that far, but for a vehicle, I think it's 117 or 120 horsepower out of a 1.6 liter inline four, and it's got a 5-speed manual. But for around the town, it really likes you to kind of rev it a little bit. Mine has, so I live in northwestern Ohio now. I grew up in northeastern Ohio, and that's where it originally was. So there is salt on the roads. So the original muffler kind of rusted out, and I replaced that. And so it's a little bit throatier than it was originally. And so I love the way it sounds, especially kind of once you get past like 3,000 or 4,000 revs. I still really love the car.
How many miles do you have on it?
So I spent a year in Germany, and then I've been working from home basically for the last 11 years. So it is at 68,000 miles.
Wow, that's not a lot.
No, it is not. And I will actually come clean to you guys right now. It's about to leave my garage next month or so.
That's so sad.
I'm going to be moving. My wife's buying a new car, and it can't stay. So, but it is going to a very good home. I'm giving it to my parents, and so they will get to enjoy it. And whenever I go home, I will still get to enjoy it. So,
nice.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's fun to keep cars in the family for a long time. Like I know that we've all heard and read and sometimes written about like cars that like sort of went from one gen. Usually goes the other way, right?
Usually goes the other. Yeah,
but but it's always nice to keep it in the family, and that means that you'll always have it around, right?
Right. And if room frees up, I'm gonna take it back. Like,
gotcha.
It's coming back. It's just I don't necessarily have room where I'm going, but I'll get it back someday. Kyle,
what was the first year for those minis when they came back? I don't remember the first model year for the new minis.
It was either 01 or 02, I think.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those.
Yeah.
Kyle,
so it's
do you have the other picture I sent? I'll show my other toy real quick. But yeah, Jeff, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say it's still a pretty early like new mini, which is nice. I mean, a lot of the newer ones have kind of gotten lost on the way, I think.
Yeah.
But that first generation was pretty good.
Yep. And then this is the other toy that I just got this year in April. Yeah, in April. That is a 2022 Honda Navi. It is kind of a hybrid between a motorcycle and a scooter. It's twist and go like a scooter, but it kind of looks like a motorcycle. So I've been enjoying that several times this year. So
that's incredible. Yeah, those are super fun for sure.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I have a complicated recent history with Honda power sports equipment, but we don't need to go into that right now. But
okay.
Suffice it to say that I think that with my my personal center of gravity and overall height and weight, I should probably avoid hybrid scooter motorcycles. But I do envy you a great deal for having one.
Fair enough.
Well, that's awesome, Bruce. Those are both good toys. I also noticed a theme of British racing green or thereabouts in your personal fleet, which is nice.
It's certainly my preference. Yeah. I will have a new car again someday, and it'll probably also be green. Here's hoping. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. Anytime you see anything in roughly that color, it's super attractive to a small subsegment of the population, but I think I fit into that too. So
totally.
Real quick, we've got a comment a little bit off topic, but that's okay, from EKG Canadian Enthusiast, who says the all-new C63 AMG is really good and better than the M3. Just off the cuff, any responses to that? Sure. It'd be a great comparison test for sure. We would love to have those back to back, but
right.
Yeah.
So quick pitch. We covered this on Rambling About Cars this week, and we specifically talked about the C63. We didn't really bring the M3 into it, but we don't know enough yet. We can't really say until we've driven the C63 and actually, enjoyed it and been behind the wheel of it. But yeah, it's interesting. It's such a major change. The fact that they've been a V8 for so long and they're going to this plug-in hybrid 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. That it's a big change. I absolutely could not say that one is better than the other right now until some of our guys get their hands on it, but certainly a good comparison.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how that 4-cylinder is with all that power. It's either going to be great or it's going to be not great.
The output when they did the standalone output numbers for just the 2-liter T, right? Like without the hybrid assist, it isn't like 300 or is it
No,
400
it's like
horsepower?
425.
Jesus.
It's right around
Oh my
there.
God.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely incredible.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I agree, Jeff. I've heard really like, like wonderful things, and I think people are really excited about it too. But I agree, it's a little strange to see C63 and not think about there being a V8 under the hood.
Yeah.
Which is actually Canadian enthusiast gave me a built-in segue to talk about my personal car. Jeff has got the most fun conversation, so we'll leave him at the end. But
Sounds good.
my car doesn't have an AMG badge on it, which is a bummer, but it does have a 5.5-liter V8 and a C involved. It's called, and Kyle's starting with the worst possible angle of the car too, and a vertical photo. Super producer Kyle has just been downgraded to above average producer Kyle, but no. So I have a 2008 CLS 550 that I've had for only a little over a year now. The story on this car is not. I think a lot of people listening probably have had similar things if they have kids, right? You sort of start with one vehicle that. I had a Boxster 2 cars or 3 cars before this that I really loved. Loved driving, stored winners, and had a lot of fun with. But then I had kids, and I kind of needed to bring my kids with me when I went places. I moved into a ZHP 330 CI ZHP coupe. I got a couple of winter cars, and eventually I just wanted something that I could put 2 kids in and still fit my stupidly large body in the front seat of. So that's kind of a hard segment to hit when you're 6'5". It's hard to think of something that's both fun to drive and has room for rear-facing car seats behind you, especially if you don't want to get into an SUV. So I started looking at some big body Mercedes from roughly this era. In all honesty, I was searching for probably an S-Class or an E-Class, but found the CLS locally and really fell in love with it. It has not great headroom in the rear, but it actually has plenty of space, like front to back, kind of north-south for me, and just enough for, again, like the largest car seat for my kids behind it, so I can drive it pretty comfortably with me, my wife, and 2 kids in the back. Certainly driving it a little bit less these days as I'm in more of a regular press car rotation, which is why we talk about it a lot. But yeah, I dearly, dearly love the car. It's just under 400 horsepower. It's like 387 horsepower from the factory out of that 5.5-liter V8. Really understated from a sonic perspective, but when you get on it, you can hear that kind of like low rumble of a big woofly V8. It's rear-wheel drive. It is not the all-wheel drive version. So when you step on it, it really goes, and it's fast. Like, it is legitimately fast car. It's super old. Like, it's old, and we get very used to things having like crazy horsepower and obviously like EV acceleration and things. But for me anyways, getting into a car like this before I had tested a lot of different press vehicles, it would have felt like exceptionally sporty to me. And it's still a lot of fun just to kick around on a good road. So
how many gens ago was this compared to the new one? Because I drove the new one, and I'm just like, I think a lot of people were kind of underwhelmed. Like, they sort of have softened the CLS a lot, and it looks good, but it's just not like special anymore.
This is the original, right? So this is the now I'm blanking out. It's W219, I believe, is the internal code for this one. It's the first CLS, not the first year, but the first model of the CLS. I believe there was a facelift. Sorry, mine might be a post facelift car, but it's the first generation of the car. And yeah, it's not. I haven't been in the most recent one, but I think I've been in every other CLS from then, and they're all quicker, and I think they all have better amenities, of course, and like more luxurious interiors. But the 2 things going for this one is it does feel it feels more connected. It's still got air springs like at all 4 corners, which thankfully were serviced. The whole system was serviced right before I bought it, because I know that can be a massive bill. But it's pretty athletic. It's not like you'd go out and drive it like you would drive an M3 or a Mustang or something like that. But if you push it hard on a good road, like there's some hint of steering feel. Like, turn in is reasonably quick for something that's like 100 feet long. And it's not an enthusiast car. Let's put it that way. But it's also, it's an automatic and it has paddle shifters that don't really respond particularly well. And it really just wants to go, it wants to cruise at like 100 miles an hour on the highway for the length of the country you're in. That's really where its sweet spot is. So
yeah. It looks like it. I mean, that design is just so good. It's
Yes,
still,
it
it hasn't aged really like at all. I don't
No.
think the headlights maybe a little bit, but the rest of it is just perfect.
yeah, I
don't
think
I don't even know about it. Just seems timeless. Like it's a car. You said it's an 07, is that right?
08.
08. Okay. But yeah, it does not look like what would that be now? A 10, like a 15-year-old car. It looks so much newer than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I guess an 8-year-old car. Sorry, but anyway, yeah.
It is definitely. I still love looking at it too. I think it's helped out. It's got the like AMG 5-spokes on it. It hasn't had like any real modifications. I usually hate white cars. This is the first white car I've ever owned, but somehow I think it works pretty well on this body style. So yeah, overall I'm a fan. And like all of us, right? Like we're constantly thinking about like flipping a car or what you're going to get next. For me, I've only been a little bit sad because it was so from a like the paint is really beautiful. The interior was in really good shape when I got it, and I'm slowly degraded all of that. Like as I've owned it and driven it a little bit longer. So as I'm driving press cars more and more, I have a cover for it and stuff, but it doesn't live indoors, and I just feel like I'm not being the best steward of the car to a certain extent. So I have been, kicking around the idea of getting rid of it and maybe getting something else that's very different from cars that I drive all the time, but haven't made a move on that front yet. So I don't know. I can see owning it for a while. It's a useful thing to have at the end of the day, as long as it's running well and I'm willing to pay Mercedes prices for servicing it when shit goes wrong. So,
and that's the thing. So it's obviously it's still an older car. Are you like me, where you take it to an independent dealer, or do you still go to or an independent shop? I mean, or do you still go to the dealer?
No, it's only been to the dealer once for having a pre-purchase inspection, and that was frankly a little bit of utility. There's a really good shop by me that, as I think in most medium to large size cities, like you're going to find a place that's independent that's great at dealing with German cars, right?
Totally.
So there's a shop that I used to bring my BMWs to. I bring my wife's Audi to, and I bring this car to, and they are not inexpensive, and the parts are not inexpensive, but certainly a little bit more reasonable than the dealership. And I haven't it hasn't been problem free. It's one of the things where you buy it sort of knowing that something is either wearing out or about to go, and you already accept that you are going to get into a maintenance issue there. So I've had them fix that, and I think every time I do that, it's 75% more expensive than I expected it will be. But that's how it goes, right? So
yeah. I mean, I would give that point of advice to anyone, is that I currently live in a small town and going to be moving to a bigger town. But even in the small town I live in, there's a very, very good independent mechanic, and I pull my Mini in there, and there's a Jaguar E-Type, and there's a Porsche 914, and there's some guy with an old Volkswagen. Like, if you kind of look around, you can find these people who are really skilled at repairing stuff that are a bit out of the norm, and it's worth searching that out.
For sure. Yeah, 100% agree. Well, and speaking of searching out, Jeff, you've been searching for a new car for quite a while. So are we going to touch on your personal car right now, and then kind of move into your long running hunt for the perfect next one?
Yeah. Well, John made this joke, and Chris Bruce knows, and Chris Smith, and anybody who's worked with me for a while knows that I've been looking for a car for what feels like 3-4 years now, after I sold my Subaru WRX that I had, which in hindsight, I probably should have just kept that car. But, the search continues. And well, right now, my fiance and I, it's mostly her car, but we have a Mazda CX-30, which is just a nice little subcompact. I think it's one of my favorite subcompacts. We bought it, we leased it new, and it's been great. I have no complaints, but it's also not super exciting. It's not as cool as the Mini or the CLS. So figured we'd go over the cars that I'm looking to buy, because I think I have a strange few choices that I've been looking at.
Yeah, let's start with the consideration set, and then we can dig into like how weird your brain works. Weirdly.
Yeah. So a lot of my friends probably know this, but I am a big Toyota Avalon TRD stan.
You are
Uh,
the only one I know. Yes.
Right. Yeah, I'm the only one. And it, to me, something about the Toyota Avalon TRD just really, really works for what I want from a car, right? I want it to be comfortable. I want a sedan.
Okay.
I want it to look good, which I think it does. I don't know if everybody would agree with the grill. And
Fine.
it just needs to be sporty enough. I don't need a performance car. I don't need a manual. I live in
Right.
Florida. I have no good driving roads. So
Yeah, I was about to say, you live in Florida. All the roads are dead straight, so that's all you need.
So this is perfect. Just big highway cruiser that looks cool, sounds good. I like it. I'm a big Avalon TRD guy, and I've been kind of looking for a while, but then the market took a turn and everything's been bad, so it's hard to justify buying one right now because they're still kind of expensive, weirdly. But yeah, I think that's my
Ballpark,
number one
I don't
choice.
look at these. What is the ballpark for a TRD Avalon?
Somewhere between 35 and 40 used.
Okay, that's
which is
okay.
it's not unreasonable, but it's still sort of more than I would like to pay.
Sure. Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
But that's also because the market's crazy, and before all of this, they were a little more reasonable. So yeah, I just love this car.
There are worse used car ecosystems to get into than the Toyota used car ecosystem, right? So there's that. I would also say, like, I know we were just talking about it, but really, like, there's a lot of what I love about the CLS in this car too, right? Like relaxed but quick, tons of room, and really just like a great space inside to spend time if you're not overly worried about pretending that you're going to do like a track day in it, right? This is also, let's be clear, an exceptionally weird car.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It is really strange that this even exists. I can't even remember. I don't even think I was back at Motor One. I remember walking down the street, like maybe in like 21 or 20 or something like that. I think I texted Brandon Turkis when I saw one of these on the road, and I was like, are you effing serious? Is there a TRD Avalon now? Like, I just missed it entirely. So
yeah, great. I mean, there's a Camry TRD too, but I'm not a big fan of the current Camry. So that was pretty cool though.
Okay.
Gary,
Jeff, I think it's hilarious that you want like this bit, because obviously the Avalon, that's the biggest sedan that Toyota offers. You want this big Toyota sedan with lots of backseat room, and I'm just going to say that your family pet is a bunny rabbit I can hold in the palm of my hand.
He needs a lot of space. He needs all the space that he. Gary asked what color. I would honestly, the red is cool, but I would maybe go like all black and just murder it out, like black wheels, black paint, the grill, like, and maybe like lower it a little bit. That would be cool.
Now you're no, Jeff.
That'd be cool.
I was with you up for a minute here, and then all black and lowering it on a. Okay, sure.
Yeah. I like it. I actually think the one that we saw, like all black, but then reverse it. Could you get those wheels painted in that like deep red? I think that would go.
Oh wow!
That'd be very, very Miami of you.
Yeah.
I just want to recognize too that on YouTube, I think it's Eric Nephron, but it's just a username. Eric mentioned that it's weird, but he totally gets it too. So you've got some fans of your thought process here in the chat.
He also said Regal Tour X, which is surprisingly cool. Although I don't love the interiors of those; they're kind of really plasticky, but those are really cool.
Big Detroit and Metro Detroit car. You saw a lot of those around as like GM employees were getting them on lease and stuff.
I bet.
Yeah.
And also honestly, like Buick for a long time, I think was sort of a sleeper. In like those Regals were actually like really nice to drive. They were pretty sporty cars. Been a minute since I've had that experience, but I remember being pleasantly surprised. All right, what's next on the list, Jeff? Let's carry on.
I would say Polestar 2 single motor rear drive is probably my next choice. Although I think I need to have a house because charging, I don't know, living in an apartment and trying to charge is a big pain in the ass still. So I don't know. There's nothing really weird about this car. It's just a really, really good electric car.
Sure.
I just really love the Polestar 2. So that would probably be my second choice.
We did a drive notes. Maybe Kyle can find it and link it, or we can link it after the fact. But we did a drive notes on this car where we all kind of weighed in on. I actually think this is still one of the better values in EVs. You know, it's not the most, it's not the thing that hits the range or power or overall kind of efficiency numbers at the highest level, if you're trying to like max out your EV experience, but it's a great looking, really easy to use electric car that has like the feature set that I think, you know, again, like 90+% of people will be able to use every day, right?
Yeah, it's great to drive too. It's very like nimble and quick, and I really like the way it drives.
So out of curiosity, and I haven't driven one of these, so maybe you can educate me, why this over, say, a Model 3 or a Mach-E, or trying to think of another competitor, but specifically those two. Those are the first two that come to mind for me.
Well, there's probably a really long list of reasons why I shouldn't buy a Tesla Model 3, but I'm not going to go into that, which it's actually a good car. I do like the Model 3, but it's not one I would consider. Mach-E is okay. I don't really want I don't really love the design, like the SUV sort of styling, and I don't love that massive center screen that Ford has.
Okay.
But yeah, that's just, I don't know. I like the Polestar 2. I was really drawn to it. I've driven most of the EVs out there. I think the Ioniq 5 is really the only new one that I haven't driven, and I've heard a lot of good things, but the Polestar 2 is definitely my top choice for EVs.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Gary, to answer your question, yeah, the Polestar 2 is the single motor is front wheel drive, unless I'm very much mistaken. And again, like it's not going to be confused with something that is overly sporty too. So like the kind of front drive of it, driviness of it comes into play, but like unless you're pushing it really, really hard, I don't think it's going to feel like a penalty at all. So
yeah,
I dig it. I also think there's a little bit of like, I know it doesn't completely qualify, but there's a little bit of fun in Polestar being a little bit of a challenger brand too, right? And having it a new thing, being kind of early on something like that, as Bruce was with the Mini, right? Like there's just something neat about that for people who care about cars. So.
Or I was thinking, you know, Jeff, I know you're a fan of Saabs, and so I can kind of see why you might kind of like the Polestar thing, having that Swedish relationship that,
Stockholm syndrome.
Very different interiors too, but like
very good.
But the last 9.5, I'll always remember. I think that I was one of the few defenders, not of the overall car, but of the interior, which was like very basic, very black, but like modernist and streamlined. And I felt like the first time I got into this Polestar 2, I felt the same way. Like it's vegan and very stripped down and super functional, but I think really cool. Like I think when it's brand new, I don't know how it'll age, but when it's brand new, it looks a little bit like, you know, like high-end furniture design and other stuff that you'd expect to come out of Sweden and Scandinavia. So,
yeah, for sure. I can't go back to Saab though. I had too many bad experiences with my old Saab, so not doing that.
Yeah, part supply for old Saabs is just getting older too, man. You got to watch it. But yeah. All right, we got one more challenger, right? One more contender.
Okay, yeah. This is my dark horse pick, and I literally just drove it this week for the first time. The Hyundai Kona N. I love all the N products, and even like the Sonata N line, I think is a really, really great car. But for the most part, like the Veloster and the Elantra are just so harsh and so uncomfortable to drive every day that I don't think I could own either of them, even for as good as they are. This one I got out of, and it's still not like the most comfortable car in the world, but it's definitely more comfortable than those two, and it's more usable, and it's still really, really fun to drive for under 40 grand. Like the Kona N is a really, really cool little SUV.
Not a sedan.
Not a sedan. That's why it's a dark horse.
Gotcha. Okay.
But this is what you would call a 5-door hatchback 20 years ago. Like we only call it a crossover today because that's what we have to call it. But we all know this is basically a 5-door hatchback.
It really drives like a lifted GTI or like a slightly better GTI lifted. Like it really does feel like a hatchback, but it has enough of that ground clearance to where you feel like you're in an SUV. And it's really compact too. It's small. I mean, we all know the Kona is small, but it just like shoots around everywhere. Like it's really nice and clean. You can drive it anywhere. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I own a Mini. I love a small car. You're not. Yeah. To me, of the three you've presented, I think this is the one I would get. Now, granted, obviously,
you're not an Avalon Trd guy, Chris Bruce. Come on.
No, I get it. And I was honestly like looking at Camry TRDs like a month or so ago, just out of pure curiosity. But of the three you have presented, I think this Kona is the one to get.
Yeah, it's tough.
I'm really interested to drive this car. I think it looks amazing. I actually think this might be my favorite looking of all of the end products, which I agree have been like, just like routinely impressive, like as they've been coming out. The ones that I have driven, I've been same deal, right? I think that they far kind of like outperform the expectations even that they have, and the end brand is really becoming a thing that we're going to care about a lot in the next like decades to come. I think that this is going to be an important moment for Hyundai's brand building, right? Also, just amazing wheels on this car. Some of like, I feel like with some of the other, like with Genesis and Hyundai specifically, I actually kind of loathe a lot of their wheel choices, even though I like the cars and the styling of the cars. These are incredible wheels. They look like they belong on an Alfa Romeo to me.
Yeah, and the one I had was all black too, so it was completely just murdered out with those wheels. It looks really good.
Gary Clark is fully on board, as you guys can see. He says it's a riot, 100, and the best of the three. So let's do this. We have one quick. I know we're going over what we normally do, but I want to not forget the reason that we're here, which is super producer Kyle's new car. If you guys are watching this after the fact, I don't think that we have time for it now, but if you're watching this after the fact on any of the platforms and you see the video, leave us a note and tell us which car Jeff should buy, right? Like, obviously, We're going to take your comments. He's going to take your comments into consideration. We're going to break this 2-year debate. Jeff's going to buy a car, and it's going to be based on your advice. So we'll excitedly review those later. But no, you mentioned GTIs, there being a lifted GTI. Kyle, you kicked us off this earlier today by surprising everybody that you had just gone out and gotten a new GTI without saying anything for 2 weeks, which is unfortunate. But this isn't even it. It's the wrong GTI.
Where's the really bad picture you sent us?
No, it's a fine picture, but give us his own GTI.
Yeah.
Kyle leveled up from a Honda Fit that I met one time and looked like it had a lot of camera equipment in it for a long time to a brand new GTI that I think is probably going to revolutionize his driving life. I've not yet been in this GTI. I've been in a GLI, but I've heard nothing but amazing things other than the infotainment. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this is the previous gen though, right? This isn't the new one. I think it was an MK.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I think he bought a used one, which I think is actually the better buy, to be honest, because the new one is, for as good as it is to drive, the infotainment, like you said, is just really bad. But
yeah, right on.
I'm not on video, but I'm gonna hop in for a second if everyone can hear me.
Sure can.
Yeah, give us 60 seconds on your decision tree to getting into the GTI.
Well, it's the first German car I've owned. My first car was an Acura RSX, and then the second was the Fit. And I just wanted like a hatchback that had better performance. So I think the GTI was on the short list, especially if I was getting something used, which is what I wanted to do. I drove the newer generation actually last year really briefly when we were doing Star Wars testing. I liked it a lot, but I just didn't feel like it was better enough to warrant getting that one over a pre-owned of the last generation. Also,
what year is your new one? 2020, right? Am I mistaken?
This is 2018, but it's the same
2018
generation as the 2020.
Yeah. Sure.
And then the newest one, the oft complained about touch controls didn't bother me a ton. What did bother me was turning on the steering wheel heating every 5 seconds.
Oh yeah.
You live in Los Angeles.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need, but the steering wheel's already preheated anytime I get in the car. So
that's
those weird
you turn off.
It's those weird touch capacitive controls on the steering wheel, or every time you turn the wheel, you accidentally hit something different, or you change the radio station. Like, yeah, that's annoying.
I gotta get in this car because I'm pretty sure I have the largest hands of the group here, and this is not an issue for me. Maybe I'm just wildly more dexterous than all of you. But well, Kyle, congratulations on the GT. First of all, wait, sorry. So it's a 2018. You said.
Yeah, 2018.
Red, and it's got which wheels and which interior?
It's got the stock wheels. It doesn't have the Pretorias, the black ones, which I was looking at, but I couldn't find every single one. It was like a running theme. Every single one that had Pretoria wheels on it had like a ton of aftermarket stuff on it as well. So I was like, I'm okay with that. And then I think it's the SE, which is like the middle spec trim.
Okay. So we'll work on pricing out some tartan seats for you, I guess, because that's probably pretty important for your quality of life. But yeah, otherwise, very well done, and thank you for sharing. Thanks everybody for joining today and talking a little bit about personal cars. Maybe we'll do another round of this when we have a different group sometime in the near future. Thank you everybody for watching and commenting. And again, like, be sure to leave your comments about which car Mr. Jeff Perez should buy so that he can get some clear direction finally.
And before we sign out here, wait, I get to promote my show too.
Oh shoot, yeah.
Hey,
Mr.
Rambling,
Bruce.
the 90th episode of Rambling About Cars just came out this morning. It's on YouTube and every podcast app you can find. We spend about the first half of the show talking about new debuts, the C63, which we kind of talked about here, the Challenger Black Ghost, the fact that the 300C sold out within a few hours. And then the second half of the show, because it's getting to be that time of the year, we talk about automotive horror movies. So Christine is the one that we end up talking about the most, but we end up talking about Cujo and Christine and Maximum Overdrive. And what's the one Smith talks about? Hold on. Oh, The Wraith and Panic in Year Zero. So go listen to that, please.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, you can find Rambling About Cars, your favorite podcast destination, on Fridays, every Friday, right?
Yep.
You can also find us here live Friday afternoons at 4 o'clock for happy hour, where we're generally talking about all the new cars that we've been driving this week. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you for the next happy hour. Bye all.
Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.